Welcome to Life Happens, where Texans come to protect their legacy and prepare for the second half of life. Join your host, attorney Kim Hegwood with Hegwood Law Group, and our weekly guest as we navigate the challenges that emerge as life happens. Now here's your host, Kim Hegwood.
Good morning, I'm Kim Hegwood with Life Happens, and today we have a very special guest, Christine Thelker, and I think the listeners are really going to enjoy what you have to say today, so I'm really super excited to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you, Kim. I'm so excited to be here. There's so many things for all of us as we age, and of course, for me, living with dementia as a younger person is something that affects more younger people than I think a lot of us realize. And so it's a topic near and dear to me, and I'm happy to share some of my personal insights.
Well, I'm looking forward to that because I see a lot of clients in my law practice that have the diagnosis, and so from what I'm hearing and everything, you're looking at you're experiencing yours a little different than a lot of clients. And so let's kind of dig in for a little bit and tell me how old you were when you got your dementia diagnosis.
I was 56 years old, working in dementia care as my career. So that was a real wow moment. So it was really life-changing for me. My career ended and sort of the world sort of stops and everything as you know it changes. And you have to rethink your whole being, and how do you navigate after that diagnosis? It's really difficult to find hope and purpose again, because we immediately think, well, they told us to go home and get ready to die, so that's what I have to do. I have to get ready to die. Well, no one tells you how to get ready to die. No one tells you that piece. And they shouldn't be telling us to get ready to die. They should be telling us to go out and live, find new hope, find new purpose. No one should ever be sent home to get ready to die.
No.
We can all have a tragic diagnosis given to us, whether it be dementia, cancer, whatever. And even if we know it's terminal, we still need to have and be given the hope and the encouragement to live until we reach that end piece.
And so, Christine, I want to back up just a little bit and tell me what symptoms you were having that made you say, you know what, there's a problem, I need to go get checked. Because as a person, that's young, I don't know that I would have known to think, oh, it's that.
I had problems for several years prior to, and I'd got taken to the emergency room from my job several times. They did CT scans and stuff. I would have these sort of events, and I would just go blank, and I couldn't find words, and I would just be like staring into space, and it's like I wasn't there. And we now know that I was having all of these small strokes, TIAs, or sometimes they call them silent strokes. So eventually I did have a stroke while I was at work, and that led to, and it was serious enough that led to the eventual diagnosis. But it still took well over a year, maybe a year and a half, before I finally got my diagnosis.
Yeah, well, I'm very sorry. My grandfather had those in the little TIAs. He'd had a stroke, and then he had another stroke, and you could tell when he was having the TIAs because he would literally be talking and he'd stop talking, and he'd be staring off into space, and you'd go, Papa, Papa, and about it. And, it would last for a minute or so. And then he would look at you because he could now hear you, and he would look at you, and I'd say, you just kind of stop mid-sentence where, keep talking to me, because I knew they were happening, so, but for him, I didn't want him to know I knew they were happening. So it was, more of a protection, I think, for him. And so, but you obviously have a very good positive, outlook on life, which is good. And we want people to have a good positive, outlook on life. And so how long did it take you to develop the, the attitude of gratitude, if you want to call it, about your diagnosis?
I think it was probably a year to a year and a half before I really started, you sort of go through this almost numbness first as you try to navigate and figure things out and try to find answers and try to find help. And so it was about a year and a half, I think. And it really, when I decided that there had to be more, there had to be things I could do, that sort of was the turning point for me. And that led me to doing all the research that I did, which then led me to Dementia Alliance International. And I always give them 100% credit. I always say they saved my life. Literally, they saved my life. Because they gave me hope. They helped me find purpose. Through their brain health hub, I learned about the nutritional things I could do to help myself. I got to go to support groups, still do, host lots of them now. That is one-to-one for people living with dementia. You can't get that anywhere else. I met people from around the world and learned how doesn't matter what language you speak. It's the same for all of us, and we all feel the impacts the same. And that to me was amazing. So through that, I became very grateful for the gift of TAI, for the gift of all the people I met and continue to meet through that journey, those connections, because we give each other hope and we help each other find a purpose again, and so that was the turning point for me to where that changed into that attitude of gratitude.
So just for the listeners, so in case they're wanting to look up something, tell them what DIA stands for.
It's dementia. It's actually DAI. It's Dementia Alliance International.
Perfect.
That's okay. That's just a little blip in the typing. And it's, you can look it up on the website. And for people that have dementia, it's, the membership's free, and we do a lot of great support groups and our brain health hub and educational webinars. And we have a lot of fun. We learn to find our laughter again. That's the other big piece, because after you're diagnosed, when you're told to go home and get ready to die, life doesn't look very fun.
No.
You lose that spark and that spontaneity. And when you find that again, life is nothing like it was before my diagnosis. But in many ways, my life is much richer on very deeper levels.
Well, I'm sure, like my listeners, I'm a little horrified to think that a doctor gave you a diagnosis and then basically told you to go home and die. That just seems to me that just seems kind of horrifying, So what would you have wanted that doctor, to tell you? And, or other medical professionals, what would you have wanted them to tell you that would have made a difference right away?
I have since worked really hard with my doctors in particular, but I try to get this message out there to as many of them as I can reach that, don't tell people to go home and die. We need to equip doctors to have more resources at their fingertips to hand them and say, here's some resources for you. I'd like you to go home and get in touch with these people. Or we need to equip the doctors with a liaison of someone who is living with dementia who can sit down with that person and their family and talk to them. There's lots of us that are willing to do those kinds of things. And we need to change our whole educational component with doctors, nurses, the whole medical profession, because most of them get very little education, if any, around dementia. And if they do get any, it's very outdated old school.
Yeah.
Right? It's all about the end stage. Nobody tells you how to live until you hit the end stage.
Yeah.
So that's what we need to do.
Perfect. And what would you say is is there one particular thing that when you're sitting in the doctor's office and he tells you, Christine, I'm sorry to tell you that, that you have dementia. Was there something else that he could have said, or that would have made a difference, that just that one thing that would have made a huge difference that hopefully someone will hear and, that maybe can make a difference in somebody else's life. So even if it wasn't the medical professional, you came home to me and said, oh my God, the doctor just said I have dementia. What would have made a difference for me to say to you?
And it comes back to that hope. It's about saying to someone, okay, well, let's see what we can learn about it. And together, let's figure out the best plan for you so that you have a quality of life that you want to have.
And so, perfect.
That's what you need.
So let's talk about the families. I'm assuming you have a family, right?
Well, I'm on my own. I'm a widow, so I'm on my own. So I live alone. That also creates more challenges, right? And I think you have to work that much harder because you don't have that person that's going to pick up those pieces. So you really have to find all those tools to help you maintain your independence. And, I have a lot of tools that I use. I have reminders and I have Alexa and I have, my phone is set with reminders constantly. And so there's a lot of tools that come into play, and your support system is really important because it can either help you flourish with your new way of life, despite your diagnosis, or it can hinder you. And what I mean by that is sometimes people, very well-intentioned, start taking over and doing for you because they don't like to see you struggling with things. But it's important that you step back and let someone navigate and figure out how to do things for themselves. Even if it means you sort of have to turn away in that moment because it brings tears to your eyes or you get frustrated. Because through that, you're helping them maintain who they are as a person to whatever degree they can. I don't do things the way I used to do them. I can see how somebody living with me would get frustrated at how I have to navigate through my day-to-day functions to get things done. So if a family member were to take over doing all those things because it's just easier and they think that they're taking that burden off of me, they also, in a sense, speed up the process because the less I do, the less I can do. So So we need to have our abilities sort of help to maintain our abilities instead of taking them away.
So I would probably be one of those family members that would want to do things for you, to help, do better. What's the most compassionate thing that you could have told me that says, Kim, while I appreciate what you're trying to do, I'm assuming you're not helping right now. And so I got to figure this out. This is what I need to do. Correct? I mean, I'm assuming it would be one of those hopefully gently conversations.
Yeah, and that's what you hope. And that's why when you're first diagnosed, sitting down and having some really in-depth, hard conversations and really getting connected with other people who live with the illness so that you can learn from them and they can help you navigate a lot of those pieces, right? Um, that's the biggest piece is you have to sit down and have those hard conversations with your family members, and you have to be able to say to them, I know you're going to get frustrated when I'm trying to do something and I'm struggling to do it, or I'm not doing it in the same way I used to. It really would help me if you could just encourage me and say, it's okay, take your time, we're not in a hurry, or I'm just going to go do this while you putter at that. And don't make a big deal of the fact that it's taking me longer, or I'm trying to figure out a new way to do an old skill.
So I'm assuming that part of what you wanted families to know is what precipitated the book.
Yes. I started writing originally to try to help my doctors understand what was happening to me. And then I started to write a blog, and I had people reach out to me from all over the country. And it was like, what? And it's like, I need more. Can you tell me more? And I thought, I need to open myself up and be real vulnerable here and let people know what my day-to-day is like. And hopefully in that, it will help family members be able to look at their person living with dementia and go, oh, I get it. Okay. Right? Or the person living with dementia can go, oh my gosh, now I know why that. Now I understand what's happening. And even for professionals, it gives them the inside look. Instead of looking from the outside in, it's a look from the inside out. And I wanted it to provide some hope for people. That was my real goal. And I'm hoping I've met that. I've heard from people around the globe, actually. So in that, I feel like I'm getting there, getting the book out. And I want to continue trying to make sure that, it was always said that dementia was one of the worst diagnoses you could ever have or get. And I want people to know, yeah, for sure, it's life-changing, it's life-altering, it's devastating. It is a terminal illness. Let's not forget that. There's no cure, there's no fix here. But there is much we can do to help ourselves and help our loved ones. And that's the piece that we really have to focus on. I think we need to shift from looking for the cure to looking at how to best enable people to live their best life while living with dementia.
Well, that's important. I mean, so important, because we're finding, the research and then, even with my own clients, in the law practice, more and more people are getting diagnosed with dementia for whatever reason. I tell a lot of people that, people are living longer, they're not necessarily living better, so, while modern medicine can keep us alive for a long time, sometimes they probably shouldn't,
Yeah.
because we're having things that are happening to us to where they didn't necessarily happen to our parents and grandparents because they died younger. The medicine wasn't as good, and as far as that, so it makes a huge difference in how things go. So
Yeah, and when you have that dementia diagnosis, one of the things I did was I created my own sort of um, file folder, I guess you'd call it. I went to my lawyers, which this is an important component, and
yeah,
I did my healthcare directive. I did my power of attorneys. I did my wills. I did my last wishes statements so that people would know it was coming from me. And so often we put those things off because we think we have time. Um, but with dementia, you never know when the cognitive wheel is going to change. So you need to get those things sort of in order. And the sooner you do it, I have mine posted at my door. It has my DNR in it. So if an ambulance comes, they just take the package to the hospital. It has everything they need. And doing that gives me peace of mind. I don't have to worry.
yeah,
So I can get on with the living part of my dementia. So there's that big component as well. And you're right that it's changed, and there is so many young people. Now we have a whole other wave that's going to hit us due to the long-term effects of COVID that are starting to show up. There's a whole other cognitive dementia type issue going on for a lot of people, and it's going to affect thousands. So we need to rethink how and what we're doing in that whole arena. We need to focus more on ensuring a good quality of life for as long as possible. Yes, we still have to work towards a cure. I don't want that to ever stop, but I would like to see the proportion change from how much is going into that as to how much is going into the side of enhancing people's lives that live with dementia.
yeah. I'm a huge fan of quality of life, huge fan, so I tell lots of clients, plan A is have the most fun you can, spend your money, and when the second one of you passes, the last check you write bounces, so just enjoy life, do things
Yeah.
that are fun, do things that make you want to get up in the morning, do things that you enjoy, because with life, it could be short, it could be long, you have no way of knowing, so you want to make it the best life possible. And so
Yep. And that's so true. And that's why with dementia, you really, that really comes into sharp focus. I always tell people, I live in the now. I haven't got a 5-year plan. I have today, and I might plan for like something fun for tomorrow. I don't have a big plan except to enjoy and find joy and purpose in every day that I get up. It's really simple, and it's actually a lovely way to live.
yeah. And so most definitely. So
Yeah.
and so I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show, and because this is going to be great for so many of my clients and other people out there. So I'm super excited that that you agreed to do this. So thank you so very much.
Oh, I'm so thankful that you had me, and it was lovely chatting with you. And it's amazing how we all are so connected. There are so many people affected by dementia with family members, and and those numbers, as you say, are growing. So, I'm thankful that you're doing the work you're doing, and really honored that you had me here today.
Oh, well, thank you so much. All right, you have a good rest of your week, and we'll hopefully get a chance to talk to you again.
Yes, I hope so too. Thank you, and you have a good week as well.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Life Happens with Kim Hegwood. Be sure to tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. wherever you listen to your podcast as we navigate through the challenges that emerge as life happens. The content of this podcast does not establish an attorney-client relationship or constitute attorney-client privilege, legal, medical, financial, or any other professional advice.